Welcome back here to the Gill Connections Podcast. Once again, bringing you coaches from around the country, sometimes from around the world, uplifting and honoring their journey in this great sport. And I'm excited about this one. I've known today's guest for a while. We've had different interactions. He's got a variety of a backstory, and I think he's going to, first of all, I think his journey is going to be amazing, but I think we're going to get into some conversations that are going to help you guys and gals that choose to press play every single day right here on the podcast. So appreciate you guys being here. Let's get into it. Help me welcome the wise, the wonderful Mr. Nick Schneigert. Nick, what's up, brother?
Thank you so much, Mike. It's a pleasure to meet you. Being in this podcast, I remember the first time I met you was when I was a volunteer coach at Rockford College, and I was a site coordinator for the USATF Level One Coaching Certification
That's right.
course. And you were one of the coaches that gave presentations there. So I had a lot of fun doing it. I did it for like 2 years when I was a volunteer coach over there. So it's great to see you. I've seen you around at conventions and clinics here down here in Texas. So once again, it's great to see you.
Yeah, man. Boy, that brought back some memories. I taught level ones for a good 10 years, doing at least one a year, a lot of times two, sometimes three a year, and really had a good time. And I remember my last one was in St. Louis, and I remember it was time for it to be my last one because I couldn't put in the time and attention that the students, the coaches deserved. And I felt bad. I was like, oh, I'm a little underprepared here, and that's not good. I'm a big coaching education advocate, and here I am not doing the right things. But I remember those Rockford ones, man. That was a lot of fun. I appreciate a lot of people don't think about all the other people that have to do these things. So I appreciate what you were doing there, man. Thanks for moving coaching
Oh,
education along.
It was great. It was a great time and very beneficial for the Chicagoland area and the state of Illinois. And we had a lot of coaches from Wisconsin that came down too.
Yep. Yeah. Well, Rockford. Yeah, you're a stone's throw away from Wisconsin for crying out loud.
Absolutely.
Well, Nick, you are in a unique situation in regards to the podcast. Normally, we have a coach who is in a position right now today. For lots
hmm
of reasons, you're not in a position. And I actually found that to be more interesting because there's going to be a lot of people that are listening that either want to or are scared of or not sure what's going to happen if that day ever comes. A lot of people, a lot of our
hmm
coaches, coach is their identity. It's number one. I have said this many, many times. There's no bigger fan of track and field coaches than me, and I still think coach is maybe the fourth or fifth most important title that you have. You are a mom, a dad, a husband, a wife, a brother, a sister. So many other titles you guys and gals have out there that are more important. But I think your experiences are going to help us to understand that what coach is extremely important. Don't get me wrong, but that's not who you are. That's not in totality of who you are.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, let's get along on that journey, my friend. Let's get in our Wayback Machine. Assuming you are an athlete, and we certainly know what assuming does, so we'll be careful there. Where in the world does track and field
Mhm.
start for you?
Oh man, high school. Pretty much my father, he escaped he was a refugee. He's a refugee, escaped
Mm,
from communist Poland back in 1972. Came to this country with $5 in his pocket. Didn't speak a word of English, and he obviously Chicago has a very large Polish population there. Still today, the third most spoken language in the Chicago area.
really?
My mom came here on a special visa, and pretty much, growing up as a kid, we were a soccer family. My dad loved soccer. He played professionally in Poland. And but growing up as a kid, I grew in love with baseball.
Hmm.
And I watched the Cubs with Harry Carey, Steve Stone every day, and I was just a big baseball guy. I was very, very fast somehow. I thank my father for that gift. I ended up being always the fastest kid in the baseball team and all that. During the time I played Little League, and my father, because of my grades, wouldn't let me play Little League for a couple years. And then, like, by the time became a freshman in high school, I tried out for our baseball team and I got cut. I'm like, oh, this is not cool. So, and I think it's because in those 2 years of not playing baseball, the speed of the game got really fast. And another thing that happened was our basketball team ended up going to the state championships. So because of that, we only had like 2 days of tryouts, and it was like 100 kids were trying out for the team. And yeah, eventually, I got one ball that was hit to me. I picked it up and I threw it way over the coach's head. I think and that was it. That was it. I mean, my hitting was okay and everything. And we did a mile run. I was like in second place out of 100 kids, but they didn't care. It was just that one throw, I guess. And next thing you know, I got cut. And the next year, I did play travel ball that summer. But I know baseball was, I could see how speed of the game was really fast. So then I ended up uh, doing track and field, and I'm going to keep this one short, but I was, again, one of the fastest kids in the team. And those 3 years, I was just like, I didn't, it wasn't all state or anything like that, but we always scored points. Coach always puts me in a long jump, triple jump, 100 meters, high jump. I was like 5'6". I did high jump, but learning all those events brought me to where I am today, because like you could pretty much say I was a decathlete in high school,
Hmm.
and I don't, we didn't have a lot of coaches. I don't learn everything by myself, all these different events and everything. And um, eventually, but one thing is, I didn't want to go compete in college. I want to go in the military.
Hmm.
I was all about the
Well,
military, and
stay in high school for me.
yeah,
I'm curious. So you grew up in Chicago. Love that. I moved from, deep South Alabama to Chicago, and I learned a lot about Chicago and Chicago culture. You said you had 100 kids trying out for the baseball team. That's a pretty big school then. Give us an idea,
yeah.
if you're willing to share, what school and what year did you graduate? That kind of helps me peg as far as what technologies and things like that are available.
Well, I come from a very Catholic family, and I actually was ESL. English was my second language, and while I
Exactly.
was
Wow.
uh, in yeah, when I was in fourth or fifth grade, I had to transfer to a Catholic private school because they had a special ESL program,
Hmm.
and that just started, believe it or not, from public to private. And so I went to St. John's Evangelist in the suburbs of Chicago,
Hmm.
Streamwood, Illinois.
Hmm. Hmm.
And then I ended up going to St. Edward High School
Hmm.
when I was in Elgin. It was a pretty big private school.
Hmm.
So maybe a little exaggeration, but we had about
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
40
yeah.
to 50 kids that
Yeah,
tried
yeah,
out for
yeah.
the
Yeah,
team.
yeah. No,
Still
I
a
got you.
big school. We still had a lot of kids that tried out for the team.
Yeah.
So I went to St. Edward High School,
Hmm.
and then eventually after my freshman year, unfortunately my parents got divorced.
Mm.
Financially got really hard for me to go to St. Ed's. My
Yeah.
grades are okay. And then I transferred to Streamwood High School
Hmm.
in the northwest suburbs. So it's Streamwood, Illinois.
Yeah, yeah.
And yeah, I was there for 3 years. I graduated in 1995.
Okay, so you're a year under me. I was in 94. Okay, that helps. I appreciate that. Yeah, it
Yep.
makes a lot of sense. I coached when I got to Chicago, I coached for a couple years at De La Salle High School in the Catholic League
Yeah.
there. So I got to, and what's funny is I always tell people, growing up where I grew up, little town in Alabama, didn't know anything about Catholics except for maybe I'd heard about the Pope on TV. And so
Yeah.
then I'm teaching, I'm not teaching, I'm coaching at this Catholic school. It's like, oh, I learned a lot more about, Catholicism and how big that is in Chicago. That's for sure.
Yeah, it's big, especially amongst the Hispanic and the
Mm.
Polish population
Yeah, yeah.
in the Chicagoland area, a lot of
Yeah.
Eastern Europeans. So my our parish in Streamwood right now, the three major languages for Mass is uh, four actually. You got English, then you got Polish, and you got Spanish, and you got Tagalog. We have a huge Filipino population now
Wow.
in the Streamwood area as well.
You mentioned
So all those different languages in Mass, yeah,
you're an ESL student, so I assume you spoke Polish. It was your native.
I did.
Do you still speak it?
Yeah, moving po polsku. Yeah, Ja rozumiem po polsku, ale mój język nie jest taki dobry. So I
Wow.
understand Polish. My tongue isn't the best, but I'm
Sure,
very
sure.
semi-fluent in it.
Wow, dude, that's
Mhm.
awesome. I'm still working on English, so I'm always impressed when someone can speak more than one language, dude. That's cool. I love that. I love that. Appreciate you not saying
Yeah,
anything bad
yeah.
about me in Polish. Thank you for that. That's always nice.
No, no, no.
So, talk to me about what kind of track athlete you were in high school and what I mean by that. I never care how good or not so good someone is. Your actual athleticism means nothing, my opinion, in track and field. They may give you more experiences. You probably have to be pretty athletic to go to the Olympics, right? But regardless if you long jump 12 feet or 30 feet, doesn't say you're going to be a coach or not a coach or a good coach or not a good coach, whatever, et cetera, et cetera. What I mean when I say, tell me what kind of athlete you were doing a lot of different events. You had some coaches, not a lot of coaches you mentioned. What was your, because spoiler
Hmm.
alert, you become a track coach. So what kind of, like, what was your mentality about coaching? Were you a gym rat or an office rat? You're always in coach's office asking about workouts. Were you, you graduated in 95, so there is no YouTube and there's hardly really any, maybe you go to the library for a book or something like that. Are you doing any of that? Or are you just, because I have a lot of grace for 16, 17, 18-year-old kids here. Are you just, you know what? I showed up, they told me to run and jump and I ran and jumped. What kind of kid were you in regards to that?
Man, I was the coach. We only had one coach, and sometimes we had an assistant coach, from what I remember, and he was a football coach. So he was a great guy. I he was he had that football mentality, and I he was a good sprint coach. But for mid distance and long distance, I don't, and it's not his fault. He really, I mean, they put him in the fire, man, and that's true for many of the high schools even today. A lot of these, coaches get hired at, just either lower end of the totem pole and, in the teaching ranks, and they're like, oh, you got no choice. You got to coach because we need a coach, or they found somebody, it's like a stipend for like a couple grand and they come in and and he wasn't a teacher, but he was a referee and a football coach. I don't remember exactly what he was. He was a great guy. He cared for us, but we had a big team. It was just him, and sometimes the assistant coach came around. So we really had to learn a lot of things ourselves, my coach, he I really liked the 800, and I started off doing the 800. I mean, my times were anything special, sub 210, maybe a little
Right.
bit faster. But eventually I did long jump. I ended up doing the 100 meters. I learned triple jump all by myself, along with a couple of my jump squad, long jump, triple jump squad. And I even did high jump. I thought that was really cool, and so and obviously a high jump, you need to be very technical in that one, with the amount of steps and all that. Same with triple jump. I love coaching triple jump, because the amount of technicality is involved in it and stuff. So, I was, like I said, I wasn't an all-stater. We were class double A. At that time, there was only two classifications, single A and double A, from what I remember. And but we scored enough points against like schools in our district and stuff like that. We never beat the St. Charles. We never beat the who else was Lake Parks, I mean, there's so
York,
much money
Warrenville
pouring into those
South.
schools.
Yeah, I remember it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We never beat those schools in our conference and
Yeah.
even around. But, we still scored enough points to get through. And it was really cool learning all those events and stuff. And eventually, I'm very familiar with Del Salle. That's the one that's right next to Illinois Institute of Technology, correct?
And that, boy, nice job, because that's how I got to Chicago, is I went to school at Illinois Tech for a year. Exactly right. Yep.
Wow. So I
Yeah.
coached there too.
At where? Illinois Tech?
So at Illinois Tech, I
Scarlet
coached at
Hawks,
Illinois
baby.
Tech.
Yeah, is that
Yeah,
right? Oh,
yeah,
yeah. Yep. That's how I
yep,
got from
yep,
little old Alabama to Chicago. And that's how
yep.
my fraternity house literally looked right into De La Salle's football field. And so that's how I found out about De La Salle. Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's so
Yeah.
cool.
I was the sprints jumps coach. over when
Yeah.
I was at that school for a couple of years.
If they would have
Um,
had track when I was there, I might have figured out a way to stick around, but they only had cross country when I was there, and I was not
yeah,
doing 10Ks and 5 milers and stuff. So I wish they wish they did. Do you remember that little I can't even call it dirt. It was almost like crushed. It was really packed down, but like that little 160 loop track that they had.
it was still there
Oh yeah.
when I was there in 2015 to
Yeah.
2016.
Yeah.
Yeah, 2015, 2016 it was still there.
Yeah, we put a
Yeah.
lot of work on that one, man. I love that little track actually. It was pretty cool. I liked it a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, well, we'll get there. All right, so Nick,
Mhm.
you're going through high school. Sounds like you're having a good time. You're
Yeah.
trying different events. That's always cool. I wish I would have tried some maybe more different events in high school. You start thinking about, but I'm not necessarily. I'm not picking up like, oh yeah, I'm going to become a coach one day. I'm not picking those vibes up
Mm-mm.
at this age and stage. Okay, and you
Mm-mm.
mentioned so normally we say, okay, so you start thinking about college, whether you compete or not. But you mentioned the military. Tell us more about
Yeah.
that.
I really wanted to go to the military, so I did 1 year cross country my senior year. I just loved cross country and track. I loved the sport
Hmm.
and just both. I don't know if you want to consider cross country track as one sport or two
Hmm.
different sports, but I love both cross country and track. And the camaraderie, the teamwork, and that was the one thing I was really good at. Again, I wasn't all stater and all that, but
Hmm.
within my team, I was pretty good at what I did. And then I really want to join the military. I don't know what it was.
Hmm.
When I was a kid, I loved G.I. Joe. I absolutely loved G.I. Joe. I was infatuated with G.I. Joe. I mean, I must have had every action figure from G.I. Joe. I still never got the aircraft carrier. I still look at eBay once in a while, seeing if I could get that darn aircraft carrier. Because the thing was expensive. It was big. We
Yes.
didn't have a lot of money. But yeah, I've always watched the military movies, even today.
Hmm.
I just watched American Sniper with my 7-year-old daughter.
Hmm.
It was
Hmm.
so cool. And like, I think that's important. She asked me all these questions about the military and everything, and I'm
Hmm.
teaching her, and, she's 7,
Hmm.
but, I then decided to go to the military. I was like, you know what? Just college might not be for me.
Hmm.
I know I'm decent. I know I could probably compete in the next level, but I already made up my mind that fall.
Hmm.
Midway through cross country, I'm joining the military. So
Yeah.
yeah, so I took that summer off. I did a lot of 5K races because I love to run. I was very physically fit and all that, and I decided to get into join the Navy. So
Is that right?
I
What,
went.
why, you have three branches really to choose from because I believe Marines are coming through the Navy, right? So I don't think I could be wrong here, but I don't think you enlist into the Marines. You listen to the Navy and go that route. I could be wrong, doesn't matter. But
Yeah.
why? Because it's very interesting. My brother, the guy who's like my brother, Brian, uh, same, very similar path, loved track, loved football, things like that, and was like, I'm going to enlist and enlisted into the Army. Why'd you pick the Navy?
Well, there's 5 branches. You got the Coast Guard, the
Thank you.
Navy, the
Yeah.
Marines, the Army, and the Air Force. And
Right.
I actually got six. You got Space Force now.
Can
So
you actually enlist into the Marines out of high school, or do you have to go
yes,
through?
yes.
Oh, okay, all right, I was wrong. And thank you
Yes, you can.
for the Coast Guard. I That is on me. I should have remembered the Coast Guard. Yes.
No, you're good.
Yep.
You're good. It's very hard. I mean, I understand, but I joined the Navy because, the my dad, he he worked in a factory for 45 years and retired a couple years ago. And he wanted me to go to a branch that was very STEM based. And I'm not saying the Marines or the Army is not STEM based, but there's
Right.
more opportunities to be STEM based
Hmm.
in the Navy. I didn't want to do it. I'm like, I really want to go to the Army and everything, but I felt bad for my dad, and he's a guy that we had a very rocky. My parents got divorced at a young age. It was very
Hmm.
rocky. We grew
Yeah.
up with no money, literally none. And even though we went to private school, everything was paycheck by paycheck with my dad, And then that's one of the reasons why we had to transfer to Streamwood High School, was
Right.
because of my father. And, my dad, and I'm very open about this too. I grew up with a very alcoholic mom, and it was
Mm,
a rough childhood growing up as a kid. And I look at my dad, I'm like, man, he did so much for me. And I was like, you know what? He wants me to join the Navy. I'm just going to join the Navy and
yeah,
stuff. And I really wanted to get in the military. At least he didn't have to pay for college or worry about college or anything like that.
yeah,
So I ended up doing um, I took that summer off. And because I knew it's going to get hot and humid in the Chicagoland area, right next to Great Lakes, Lake Michigan. And, it's going to be humid, it's going to be hot. So I took that summer off, did a lot of 5K runs. I actually did a couple Open USATF junior Olympic meets and
yeah.
all that stuff.
Mhm.
That was a lot of fun. But yeah, ended up going that fall and to boot camp. And
And that's in Chicago Lakes, right? Where
yeah, Great Lakes.
Great Lakes. Yeah, yeah,
So
that's right. I remember that a
mhm,
little bit because I
mhm.
think Air Force maybe goes to San Antonio, or is that Army?
They do.
Yeah,
San Antonio,
is that Air Force?
Yeah, Air Force San Antonio, Marines goes to Camp Pendleton in
Right,
California.
right.
I think they go to North Carolina. I could be wrong there. I think they
Yeah,
got two boot camps.
that sounds
I have
right.
no idea where Coast Guard goes.
Yeah,
And I
yeah,
have no
somewhere on the
idea
sea, I
where,
assume.
yeah,
Yeah.
I have no idea. I have no
What
idea. But
what was it like?
yeah,
You know, it's interesting. Sometimes, kids will join track or baseball or some other sport and they don't know much about like, well, what does that mean? Like, what does practice look like? But they have an idea, could be completely wrong. You had some idea of what boot camp or whatever would look like, at least in your head.
yeah.
How was it
Mhm.
actually? What in the world do you do in boot camp for Navy? I don't think I could ever do that in my whole life. You're too strong for me, brother.
Well, in the Navy, it's not going to be as physical as the Marines and the Army, but we still run. We still had to run. We had to pass our physical requirements. The PRT physical readiness test. We had to get certain scores. At that time, I was pretty in shape,
Hmm.
and they knew I was a runner. I still remember I brought my Nike waffles. Remember those? The Nike
Oh yeah,
waffles.
I
They were
sure
like the
do.
cross
Yeah.
country. Yeah, they weren't cross country spikes, but you use them for running, and like
Hmm.
they didn't have the spikes underneath, but
Hmm.
just like a rubber
Right.
spikes, whatever.
Yep.
But I brought those with me to boot camp, and and they let me have it because uh you get issued New Balance shoes back then.
Hmm.
And I told them I got my Nike waffles. I love running with these. Can I run with these? Yeah, yeah, let's go ahead and run with them. I'm like, cool, So they knew I was a runner, and I actually was the leader of the running group whenever we did our PRT runs and all that stuff, and did our push-ups, did our sit-ups. And again, Navy's very academic, even enlisted side. So we did a lot of academic stuff on the side as well. And
Do you
yeah, it,
do
it was
do you
it
do
was
some
one
kind of
big
like
blur.
yeah, I bet. Do you do some kind of like test that tells you where you're like my brother had to take a test and he tested into computer information sciences, so he went that route. Did you have to take a test of like
Mhm.
where you're because the Navy has, I mean, everything, cops to engineer. I mean, they have
Yep.
everything in the Navy, just like every branch does. Did you have to take a test and what was your, I don't know, what would you call it, assignment or specialty or your job? What would
Yeah.
you call that? Yeah.
So in the Navy, we call it rating, whereas the
Okay.
Marines and Army, they call it MOS. In the Navy, we just call it a rating. So
Okay.
I was an operations specialist. I had to take the test. It's called the ASVAB test.
Hmm. Hmm.
I won't lie. My score was average. It wasn't
Hmm.
the best, but it wasn't like really bad. So they gave me several options based on a test. And to this day, I regret not. So they offered me a hospital corpsman, which is a nurse as well. I decided not to do that. A funny story is the way corpsman is spelled out, it's corpse men, but the P is silent. So when they first offered me that position, the detail offered me that position, I thought I had to do something with dead bodies. I'm like, I'm not going to carry dead bodies. So, and now I regret.
That's not a crazy thing to think of as you're an 18-year-old kid, let's be for real here. And in the military
Yeah.
people do die. So that's not the craziest thing. It is at our age funny to look back and laugh at that though, but that's not crazy crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, I was not, I didn't have any direction, nobody gave me direction, so I could, till this day, I can regret, I wish I could have been a hospital corpsman because you were a nurse in the military and, you would have learned a lot about, the body and all that stuff,
Right.
and which
Yeah.
could have been beneficial for me today as, as a coach,
Hmm.
So I also got offered as Master at Arms, which is a police officer, like you mentioned, military cop, and
Hmm.
I could have went that route too. And I regret not doing it, but
Hmm.
I chose operations specialists primarily because of my dad,
Yeah.
and so, and as an operations specialist, you pretty much were a radar guy and you hunted down like bad guys out in the sea with a radar, and it's just like, and that's the reason why my eyesight's so bad now. I got contacts on now, but like you're in the dark and it's
Hmm.
8 hours on, 8 hours off,
Oh,
8 hours
wow.
on, 8 hours off, and I
Yeah.
was I was in the ship for 3.5 years, aircraft carrier, USS Kitty Hawk.
Is that right?
Um, yeah, yep. So I was on the Kitty Hawk. They finally decommissioned 10, 15 years ago, but it was a very old ship. But so I love the Navy. I loved it. I just wish that I knew what I was doing, because obviously my dad's an immigrant. He don't know nothing about the military, he's a
Right.
refugee, and
Right.
I just watched G.I. Joe and that's it. I really wish that I could have either been a corpsman
Hmm.
or a master at arms because you're actually out in the field, you're doing stuff,
Mm.
whereas, you're an operations specialist, you're going to sit on
Boat.
a console for so many hours every
Yeah.
single day. And I
H-
was just not a big fan of that. So,
How,
but
on average, how long were you on a boat? Meaning, like, did you go out for 3 months, 6 months, a year before you came back? Or is it like, no, Mike, every day I got to go back to my apartment or whatever? How does that actually work?
So every 2 years, you go on a 6 month cruise back then. But then you had so many other qualifications. You're involved. The pilots need to get qualified. The boat need to get qualifications of some sort. And I mean, literally, I am not kidding you. It was probably 7 to 9 months a year you're out to sea,
Wow.
total. So, come back for a couple of weeks, maybe come back for a month and a half or whatever, and then you go back to sea again and, back and forth, back and forth. And you're out to sea more. My opinion, this is my opinion only. I think you're more out to sea on an aircraft carrier than you do with like the destroyers, the frigates and stuff, just because of the
Hmm.
qualifications the pilots had to go through.
Mm.
I was a member of the all Navy track team, but it wasn't like what the Army program is
Hmm.
today,
Hmm.
when they're now all these Canyons on the Army. It was very at the very beginning stages, and we didn't do any. We had to be out in sea and stuff like that. We weren't. There was no like station we go to. It was a weird it was, I ran a lot of 5Ks on my ship. So, and that's it. And, it's just like, and so we were out on the beach, our master chief, who was in charge of like this group and all that. But yeah, to this day, again, I do wish that I went the corpsman and then
Hmm.
master at arms. But now I know,
Yeah.
and now with my kids, I have a United States Naval Academy banner in my daughter's 7-year-old daughter's room. Actually, now our grandparents live with us now, so
Nice.
they both share rooms in the naval. So my 4-year-old son and my 7-year-old daughter, they share a bunk bed thing,
Hmm.
and then I have a Navy banner up there, and they watched a couple military movies with me and
Hmm.
stuff, and I'm trying. I want to be their guy because I would love for them to go into the military. I would,
Yeah.
wait, and it's their choice if they want to go enlisted or officer.
Right.
It's going to be their decision. But I want to be that person that guides them through because I didn't have that
Mm.
guidance, and I think they have that potential and resources that I did not have growing up as a kid.
Yeah, they'll definitely be a step or two ahead of you because of you, because you will say, "Hey, it's
Hmm.
not Corpseman, and here's why." Just for that alone,
Yeah,
you'll be able to set them up ahead of the game.
I know the ins and outs now,
Exactly,
so.
literally, literally.
Yeah.
So how many years did you do in the Navy, and why'd you get out?
I did 3.5, 4 years.
Hmm.
I really wanted to go to college. I
Hmm.
was going to be first generation to go to college. Um, I wanted to do cross country and track and field, which is a story by itself. I ended up going to Southern Illinois University,
Down in
SIU, go Salukis. Hmm.
Carbondale. Yeah, is that right?
Yes,
Yeah.
Carbondale.
Well, you're from
Carbondale.
Illinois. Okay, that makes sense. Because I was like, wait, how in the world did
Mhm.
you find out about them? But you're from Illinois, so you know the different schools. Okay, I got you. Yep.
I Again, another thing I regret. I wish I would have went to University of Illinois,
Okay.
but I ended up going to Southern Illinois.
Great school.
But in a lot of ways, I just wanted to be the farthest away. I was young. I was still 22, still a
Hmm.
young kid,
Yeah.
and I wanted to be. I was part of the. I was under the Illinois Veterans Grant. So if you're a veteran in Illinois, and Texas has the same thing over here, you get the honorable discharge, the DD 214. You end up going. You get free college, free tuition, any state school
Nice.
in Illinois on top of the GI Bill. So
Oh,
it
yeah, I
was
was gonna
really
say, how does
good.
that play with the I don't know. I've heard of the GI Bill, but don't know what the actual is. But on top of that, you get that. Wow.
Hmm.
So did you get to go to
Yeah.
school for free?
Yeah. I
Bless
got,
you. Great.
well, it's after a certain amount of hours. Unfortunately, I had to get some financial aid because I took an internship. Because of the internship, it exceeded the hours of
Hmm.
how
Hmm.
many credits I
Yeah,
had at SIU. But yeah, about 95% of it was free,
bro.
the
That's
whole time I was
awesome.
there.
I love
Yeah,
that.
and my
What did
GI Bill pretty much paid for my rent.
That's
Mhm.
awesome, bro. I love that. Absolutely. What
Yeah.
did you go into Carbondale to study? What were you thinking as a 20? Here's what's interesting. I always ask this question of the 18-year-old you of, all right, you're going to go to college. What are you thinking about becoming? This is interesting. Here's the 22-year-old you who actually has it. Because I think it's crazy that we make 18-year-olds pick a major that's going to affect them for the rest of their life. Oh, and we charge them a crap ton of money for it too, by the way. Now, here's a very interesting. You're 22, you have life experience. What are you thinking when you go into Carbondale for a degree and then, I'm going to go on and become XYZ?
Yeah. So there's two things, academically and then athletically.
Okay.
So I will start off academically. I actually came in wanting to be a gym teacher and
Yeah.
get my major in physical education.
Hmm.
And I was going to minor in, actually, I was going to major, my apologies. It was major in English, minor in physical education.
Hmm. Hmm.
I really wanted to become a coach, a high school coach.
So you
It
had
was like a
decided at
lot
this
of people.
point you are going to be a coach.
Yeah, a lot of people told me I'd be great at it,
Okay.
and I was like, oh, yeah, let's go ahead and do it. And then something clicked in my mind that first couple days. Again, I'm 22. I'm old, but I'm still very young, and I'm
Hmm.
like, you know what? I want to become a TV news reporter. So.
Yeah.
So, yeah, because growing up as a kid, you have to understand my father, we grew up I grew up in the 80s and the early part of the 90s.
Hmm.
Communism was all over the news.
Hmm.
So we always watched the news. And I learned so much
Hmm.
about, government, communism, socialism,
Right.
capitalism, all that stuff. I learned so much about it. And everyone always told me you'd be great as a TV news reporter as well. No, don't worry about the coaching. You're not going to make good money as an English teacher. You're going to make good money as a TV news reporter,
Hmm.
So yeah. So I ended up majoring in radio and TV with a minor in public
Ah.
relations at Southern Illinois University.
Dude, so
Yeah.
I was a public relations major. That
Yeah.
was a print journalism major with that as well. So I went to I knew, you see, you're a better looking guy than I am. I knew this wasn't going to make TV. Maybe I could do radio back then, but I certainly could do better if it was just, my byline. You didn't have to see me and I could just write stuff. So that's so cool. And Carbondale's got a great journalism, which is where public relations and all this stuff would fit. They have a great program down there.
They do. They do. They actually, it was the only public university in the state of Illinois that had a PBS station on campus. So we had our own
Yeah.
student newscast on there, all that. Like U of I didn't have that.
Right.
Everything's theory up there. Even North, I
Yeah.
believe Northwestern and all that. Like everything was based on theory, but we had an actual PBS station on campus.
Wow.
You
So you
know,
got
in my
to
opinion, go
practice
ahead.
your I'll say your dreams. Like you got to practice your craft. You actually got to go interview people and be at a news
I
desk and
did.
all that.
I did. I did. And that was a huge advantage when I graduated from Southern Illinois University, just because you had the hands-on training with
Yeah.
everything. And that's what a lot of these news stations wanted. Like I'm not no doubt, University of Illinois, all those other colleges have great overall academic schools, like overall, but a lot of these colleges, these directional universities per se, and they'll have one or two great programs where they like Eastern Illinois State is very well known for teaching.
Right.
Everyone goes, okay, I say all my best friends, almost every single of them, their principals and teachers went to Illinois State to become a teacher,
Yeah.
you know. But Southern Illinois was all about journalism
Mm-hmm.
and, public relations,
Yeah.
TV news broadcasting.
Yeah.
So yeah,
So
I
you're
ended up switching up my first week and I ended up working for the radio, WSIU
of course.
AM, I think FM. I don't remember now, maybe
Yeah.
both.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, I was a sports broadcaster.
Yeah. So
So
did you do so you didn't do any track at Carbondale?
yeah, so here's the story with that. I actually walked into the head coach's office and I asked him, "Can I be a walk-on?" And he looked at my time and said, "Maybe, maybe." And at the time, unfortunately, um, he's a great guy. I don't, I heard he was a great coach. He was in his middle stages of Parkinson's disease. And it was really hard communicating with him, and I don't know what to
Mm-hmm.
do. And I just felt like sort of like uncomfortable as a young 22-year-old trying to
Sure.
talk to him. And I just didn't want to force upon him, hey, I want to be in a track team. I want to be in a cross country team and all that. And I said to myself, you know what? I Let's just transfer. Let's see if I could just transfer. Like he's not very happy about me. I could just
Mm-hmm.
tell he doesn't want me. It just gave me these vibes. So I called up SAU Edwardsville.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I called up the head coach over there, and he was all excited about me coming there. He was like, "Yeah, I really want you to come."
Yeah.
And I still remember, he left me. Back then, we didn't have cell phones. It was like, we picked up the phone at a dorm room, pressed the code,
All
and he had
right.
voicemail.
That's
So I
right.
got all these voicemails from him saying, "I got you an apartment, and I would love for you to come down here and compete for me." And
Wow.
then I'm like in my head, and again, I'm just a young 22-year-old. My mind's going scattered all around the
Mm-hmm.
place because I'm in a different ball game, you know. Um, and I'm sitting here, I'm like, nah, I don't want to move to Edwardsville. I don't want to go to SIU Edwardsville. I think I'm tired of moving around. I was in the military all those years and I had to go all around the world, stationed in Japan, stationed in San
Wow.
Diego. I like the party atmosphere here at SIU. I'll
Mm-hmm.
stay. I'll stay at SIU. So, and my roommate at the time, he was a Marine, a former Marine. I'm sorry, once a Marine, always a Marine. So he's still a Marine.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
he convinced me to stay, and I was having a good time. I was like, all right, I'll just stay. So I ended up not doing cross country and track in college like I really wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
And just because, and my career aspirations was actually becoming a TV news reporter.
Mm-hmm.
And plan B was coaching.
Right.
Plan B was always going to be going on a coaching route.
Okay.
I knew I was going to be good at it. I knew that if this whole TV thing, TV, radio broadcasting thing didn't do well,
Right.
I'll just go straight into coaching. So,
So you're on the
you know,
path to the TV news media side, and you're taking classes and
mhm,
actually doing it. Getting your hands dirty with that. Your backup plan. Not even maybe necessarily. I'm not even necessarily hearing you say your backup plan. Like, well, if TV doesn't work out, I'll coach. It's almost like, yeah, I'm going to coach as well. We'll figure that part out.
mhm.
Are you doing anything for the coaching side at this point in college? Like, you're watching track practice,
No,
you are reading book. It's just okay. I like the sport. I like the idea of coaching, but right now, 99% of my time is here with the media side.
yeah, it was 99% of the media side.
Hmm.
You mentioned you joined a fraternity. I joined a fraternity.
Hmm.
I had a lot of leadership roles in that.
Hmm.
And so I got involved with both. And, you're pretty busy when you're doing radio. And then later on, my sophomore year, I started getting the TV side of things, I believe. So, we worked for the news station, lower end of the totem pole that was on campus, as a videographer. And back
Hmm.
then it was analog. It was like a transition from analog to digital. So, I had this 100-year-old, 1,000-pound camera on my shoulder, and I was a small guy, and I was like, man, this thing's heavy. I was just like, so, but yeah. And then, I had nothing to do with cross country and track. I did some 5K runs and
Right,
stuff like that because I still loved running.
right.
And I was pretty
You're
good at
fit.
it. Now, am I
Yeah.
going to get sub 15-minute 5Ks? No, but I got like sub 20
Yeah.
5K races,
Yeah.
and my ex-girlfriend at the time and we drove out to like St. Charles, Missouri just to do a 5K
Hmm.
race. We
Hmm.
did we did
Yeah.
odd things like that,
Yeah.
and then 9/11 happened, and that's another
Oh,
thing that really sort of changed my life.
yeah. What does a guy who's been in the military do slash think at 9/11? That's a great point. What do you tell me about that?
So I I joined the Navy Reserves when I was a sophomore in college. I still
Hmm.
remember December of 2000. And I joined, I'll be honest with you, even though I had a GI Bill, it wasn't that much. Um, it's not like I was taking vacations. It just wasn't enough. And then,
Hmm.
I got my own veterans grant, but I needed some extra money in the pocket
Hmm.
without working all consistently. And so I joined the Navy Reserves, and a lot of these college kids that were former that they're veterans end up doing the reserves. My roommate was in the Marine Reserves for a little bit too. And, honestly, I just wanted the extra beer money,
Hmm.
and then just extra cash on the side. And so then I said to myself, the last time they called up reservists was during the Vietnam War. They're not going to call me. Whatever, whatever.
Yep.
So I ended up joining I didn't want to drive up to Chicago or St. Louis. It was way too far.
Hmm.
So Cape Girardeau, Missouri, home of SEMO,
Yeah.
Southeastern Missouri University, by the way. Cape Girardeau, Missouri had a Naval Reserve unit only 45 minutes away from Carbondale, Illinois. And I joined their group, and there's only 3 units there. So my rating, as I mentioned earlier, was an operations specialist.
Right.
They didn't have that. Like, there's nothing I could do with my job in any of those. Sorry, I got a spam of some sort. Are you still there?
Yeah. Yeah. I can hear you. We can see you.
Hello?
Yep. Yep. We got
Okay,
you.
sorry, I
Yep.
apologize.
No good.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't but when I was my rating we didn't have anything specific, like, and none of the units had anything specific with my job as an operations specialist. So they told me I had 3 different units to join when I was at the Naval Reserve Center. It was either being a CB, which is construction, Master at Arms, which is military police, and then they had a medical, any hospital corpsman, any hospital corpsmen or doctors, whatever, nurses, whatever, they're going to be in
Right.
that one. So I chose, Master at Arms, their unit. So I was one of the few non-Master at Arms rating an operations specialist. I was in that unit. So I did my thing, 1 week in a month, 2 weeks a year.
Hmm.
And then, yeah, and 9/11 happens. And if you understand how reservists work, every unit is either going to be in the world, you're either going to be Alpha unit, Bravo unit, Charlie unit, and then so on. And in a time of war, Alpha unit will be, they go down to order who's going to get mobilized.
Hmm.
We were Alpha unit. I didn't know that. So 9/11 happens, and classes, I still remember, like, we were on standby. All reservists were on national standby. We got some weird stuff on our voicemail, like you're on standby, you can't travel out of the country and whatever. I don't remember exactly what happened. And then we, uh, after 9/11, during that 1 or 2 days, George Bush finally went on TV, said, I'm calling up all the reservists, or, most of the reservists according that we need, including Master at Arms, which is their police unit, whatever. And yeah, we're Alpha unit. And literally the next day, Master Chief calls me up middle of the night and says, you're being called up. So mobilized.
Wow.
And I was one of the very first reserve units to enter going to the Middle East. So I was there for about 1 year. Mhm.
Dude, holy cow. We have
Yeah.
had one of my teammates here, Brian Krell, uh, who taught me once a Marine, always Marine, was in the Marines and Marine Reserves, and he went over there during that time. And now one of my good friends here, kind of my counterpart on our basketball and volleyball side, Nick, is the Army reservist. And I, with all the things going on today, I'm like, oh my gosh, is my guy going over? I mean, geez, holy cow.
Yeah.
I mean, now you've
Yeah.
got some experience of like being on boats and like but still I don't know that anything prepares you for this, does it?
Mm, I guess like being so many months in the Navy Reserves and just understanding the Navy side of things, it was I I wasn't I wasn't scared. I wasn't nervous. I was like, okay. And I was very proud. I was very proud of what I did. I was, I ended up going to Bahrain, and Bahrain is a small country. If you're listening to the news today, that's one of the countries, Iran is right now having all those missiles, rockets shooting on. And actually, that base where that, unfortunately, a couple of the servicemen that died, that was the base I was stationed on.
Oh,
But so I was there in Bahrain for 1 year, so we're still safe. It wasn't like I wasn't going. I'm going to say this. Unfortunately, um, I am not a combat vet. I sort of wish I was, just because I wanted to do something good for this country. Really wanted to, it, you know, because I think there's veterans and I think there's combat veterans. And I sort of wish I was part of that fraternity, the combat veteran side. But
okay, let me speak way above my head with zero experience.
yeah.
The closest experience I have, my family was a lot of Air Force members, and I
Mhm.
was Air Force ROTC for that year at Illinois Tech. You were at
Yeah,
Illinois Tech. You remember how big the ROTC programs were?
I do.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
do. I had a couple of athletes that were part of
Yeah,
ROTC as
100%.
well.
I was part of Air Force
Mhm.
ROTC there. My experience is a microcosm of someone of your stature. Uh, but I do know that God bless the men and women who go into combat, that there are still hundreds of thousands of other people that have to support that, whether they go into combat or not. So, brother, your value is not more or less. I completely understand and bless your
Yeah,
thought. You were in it, so I understand. I don't understand you thinking. I can get it though. I can empathize with that.
I
But
understand.
just please know, brother, bro, you are bigger, braver dude than a guy like me, and it doesn't matter to me that you did or did not go into combat. What it really matters to me, honestly, is no matter what, you're here. That's what matters to me more than anything. So thank you. I can appreciate your sentiment there because I know you know a lot of other people, your brothers and sisters that were and are in the Navy. So again, appreciate everything, and just know
Mhm.
that there are a lot of people that are like, brother. Yeah, I know Dad's probably glad you ain't a combat veteran. Like, keep your butt out of
He
that
didn't like
stuff.
it.
Exactly. Keep your butt out of that stuff. All right.
He didn't like it. He called me up and
I,
said, "You're going to the Middle East?"
I,
No.
I,
I'm like, "I'm sorry, Dad."
like I said,
And
I can't imagine. I can't. I can't.
yeah, he's like, "No, I don't want you to go there. It's no STEM. I don't understand. You go there with
Yeah.
a gun. I don't
Oh, that's
like
right.
that."
He's big STEM guys. Like, there's no STEM over there. I
Yeah,
love that.
yeah,
That's awesome. I love Dad. That's so cool.
yeah. He's
All right.
got that accent still,
Keep us
and
moving forward. I love that. So you
mhm.
come back. Spoiler alert, you're here. You come back and you get your degree from Carbondale.
Yeah,
What do we do next?
yeah. So, yeah, I come back to Southern Illinois University. I ended up getting my degree in radio and television with an emphasis in news, and I minored in public relations.
Nice.
SIU treated me very, very well. They do all those public universities treat you very well if you get called up and mobilized for the military. They know what to do.
Right.
I don't have to re-enroll or anything like that. It was
Good.
on my transcript says 1 year it's like empty. It was like 2001 to 2002, and it says emergency withdrawal, military purposes, whatever. So I come back, I graduate in 2004. I already had a job lined up. So I ended up being a one-man band, as they call it. I was a TV news reporter and I was a videographer all at once,
Hmm.
mostly a videographer. So I had to carry the darn 200-pound camera, analog camera. It didn't work good in humidity and heat. And I was out there in Southern Illinois, driving all around like a madman, driving a reporter around as well, and in a beat up 1984 Taurus of some sort, and making like $5 an hour or whatever. It was like, dude, like, and so, yeah, so I ended up working for a TV station in Southern Illinois for one full summer.
Hmm.
And I had, I, it was a love-hate relationship. I think I did good as, especially when I wrote my own stories and stuff, but I was not really happy with the equipment we had, the TV cameras we had, and everything was just so hard to do. And then eventually, one of the TV, and I'll be open about this, one of the anchor woman, she didn't really like me too much. Because she's always saying, well, you have a big black screen here. And I'm like, it's not my fault. The humidity messed up the analog tape of some sort and all that. And I'm like, on my back of my head, man, I should have went coaching. I should have went coaching.
Yeah, I was gonna
It's
say, is
like,
coaching looking more
so
and more? Yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah. So I resigned from my position at that small, very, very small TV station in the South, primarily because I was dating a girl as well that lived in Springfield, Illinois area. So I ended up, you're gonna laugh at this. I ended up working for Abercrombie and Fitch as a manager. So I was a manager up in Springfield. Yeah, yeah. It was actually Hollister. It's like the same
Yeah,
thing.
yeah, yeah.
And yeah, and so they hired me. And if you heard all the drama and all that stuff with Abercrombie and Fitch during the 90s and 2000s, oh, I
Yeah.
was part of that, and documentary on Netflix. I'm like, oh, 100% spot on. So, yeah, yeah. And I didn't really like taking off my shirt in the middle, in front of Hollister and in the middle of the winter. Did not like that. Did not like that. So anyway, I was a retail manager there, and I'm like, you know what? There's a TV station here, NBC TV station, and so I applied to that and they immediately picked me up. I was like, oh, cool, Like, yeah, we need another, again, you needed a one-man bander, and coming from SIU, they needed somebody with that who knew how to use a camera, who knew how to edit, who knew how to, I mean, everything.
Right.
That's what a one-man band is. And so during the weekends, so Monday through Fridays, I was a substitute teacher at Lanphier High School,
Mm-hmm.
and this is where my coaching career sort of begins. And then Saturday and Sunday, I was one man bander, so I did stories. I don't know, like set up a camera, make sure that doesn't fall from the wind when I'm in front of it, like talking and all that stuff, you
Hmm.
know. And it was just me.
Hmm.
And but I liked it. I did it for a couple months, but Monday through Friday when I loved substitute teaching. I became, it was a very low income. If you're familiar with Lanphier High School, it was in the eastern side of Springfield. It was a low income, free hot lunch kind of like school and everything. But, with my background, I had no money growing up as a kid. My mom was an alcoholic.
Right.
I was able to relate with these kids in so many ways. And eventually the kids loved me and the teachers loved how, like, I guess there's bad substitute teachers out there. They love me because they gave me a lesson plan and I got it all done, man.
Hmm.
So I became the first request. It eventually became a permanent substitute teacher
Hmm.
there at Lanphier High School. And then a coach over there, Coach Altmix, a great guy, Steve Altmix. And I asked him, hey, can I help out some way, somehow? And like, listen, we have no money here. I can't give you a stipend. In matter of fact, all my assistant coaches are volunteer coaches where they have like a very super small stipend. I'm like,
Hmm.
yeah, man, let's do it. So I was actually responsible for the distance team
Oh, sure.
at
Yeah.
yeah, for the men.
Yeah.
So it was me and some other girl. We worked together. She was actually a teacher there. We worked together as teaching, coaching the men's side, the distance crew. Um, I don't know why the head cross country coach was the women's head coach, but he didn't coach the
Hmm.
men's. I did. So I don't know how it all worked. But anyway, yeah, I did that. It was a lot of fun. It was my first taste of coaching. We
Yeah.
actually had a hurdler that qualified for the IHSA 2A state championships. It was just
Hmm.
her. That was a great experience. Obviously, it's held at Eastern Illinois, so we went to Eastern Illinois
Hmm.
University for the state championships. And yeah, that was my first taste of coaching.
So there's been a lot of build up to you coaching. You finally get to coaching. Do you remember, you said it was a great taste. Do you remember the first, like what is the first memory you have when you're thinking about Lanphier, whether it's a practice, whether it was a meet where you guys did better than you thought? There's probably some moment where it's like, oh man, this has been worth it. This is way more fun than Hollister and schlumping around a camera.
You know what it was? It wasn't a certain meet. It wasn't a certain no no personal records. It was seeing how these kids smiled
Mm,
and how much they how much I got along with them and they they is one of the few times where okay, I feel successful because I'm actually changing their lives. And they want a good coach there. And I've time and time again, I hear from these head coaches, even the head coaches, even Division 1 coaches, top tier, they'll make a lot of mistakes and everything and all that. And the student athletes hate that. And for me, it was just like I was on time. Like you just mentioned, I was 15 minutes early for your podcast. I have
hmm.
to be early. I have to set the standard for these kids because they've seen me fail.
Right.
They're not going to respect me no more,
Hmm.
you know? And and that's just a fact. You don't, you could be sure, it would be great if I already had state championships under my belt. But we're at a very low income high school, and they don't have a lot of money there.
Hmm.
And, so just seeing them smile, seeing how I changed them and their lives, and always asking, are you coming back next year? Are you coming back next year? We love you,
That's
coach, and I think that was really for me the best memory maker. So
I love that, by the way, just that visual of the kid. Because I mean, come on, if you're not doing it for the kids, what the frick are you doing it for? And I hope you are doing it for the money too, by the way. We should all be getting paid, but the kid's smile is one of the that's a universal. Like if
yeah,
that doesn't
that
touch your heart, oh, I
mm,
start thinking about you. I start judging you a little bit, actually, unfortunately.
Eventually, Coach Altmix at the end of the season did give me an envelope with $50 in it, so I was happy.
Yeah, nice. Got a little
I
beer
told him you
money.
didn't have to
There
do
you
that. He's
go.
like, yeah, we just a fundraiser. You
I
did a great
love that.
job. Here you
I love
go.
that. I'm curious. So I have some heart for you in regards to the always early, 15 minutes early. I've labeled it as time phobia. If a meeting is at 3, man, at 2:55, I start getting a little antsy of like, I'm supposed to be in there, but no one else is going to be in 2:57, and then I'm in there. I have to be in there. You mentioned you were 15 minutes early here. I was 6 minutes. I'm usually waiting here for 5, 6 minutes before the scheduled time for
Yeah,
people. It's just I don't want someone else to be bothered or what's the word inconvenienced because I'm 1 minute, 5 minutes, 10 minutes late. So I appreciate that.
yeah,
What I'm curious
yeah,
about though, because there are other people who are the exact opposite, and you're dealing with 14 to 18-year-old kids who certainly, even though their life is run by time, meaning, the bell rings for each class and start of school and into school,
yeah.
they are not always going to be on time and certainly not 15 minutes early. How does a guy, this obviously, there's a lot of stereotypes with military with you as well, as far as like, on time and things like that. How does a guy like you who has that attitude, which when I say attitude, I mean a good way here, how did you handle with counsel kids who would be late to practice?
So are you talking about overall, or is it just talking about Lanphier High
Stay in
School?
Lanphier because it may evolve as
Yeah.
you coach. Yeah, stay
Mhm.
in Lanphier for me.
When I was at Lanphier High School, we did, from what I remember, they did have to run, and this is not from me, this is from Coach Altmix. They did have to run a couple laps or something like that. There was some sort of punishment involved with
Hmm.
it. And I stayed out of that because when we meet up as a team, we meet up as one full team in the beginning of practice. Sprinters, jumpers, hurdlers, all that stuff. They line up, sit down, whatever they do, go in the classroom, a couple quick announcements, and then we have practice. Now, if it was under me, it would have been, I think it really depended on the situation and the school. All right. And we could talk about that a little bit later on because I did have to make some adjustments depending on the school and the academics. So
Right,
some schools are very strict at, some schools I could not be strict at.
right,
And
right.
like I mentioned, we'll talk about that later.
Yeah. So how long at Springfield Lanphier and where to next?
So I ended up after that, um, I ended up getting a job offer to work as an admissions counselor at the University of Phoenix, for
Yeah.
profit,
Hmm.
up in the Chicagoland area.
Hmm.
So I ended up and yeah, not coaching again.
Hmm.
I'm like, it's not that I didn't want to coach. I just
Hmm.
needed a full-time job. I
Hmm.
needed to pay
Hmm.
rent. I needed to pay bills.
Right.
I didn't have any networking out there. It was so immediate, being paycheck by paycheck.
Hmm.
So I ended up moving up to Chicagoland area, Schaumburg,
Hmm.
Algonquin, northwest suburbs. And so I was at University of Phoenix for a little bit as a admissions counselor. And again, I guess my PR background helped out a lot. I was always one of the top
Hmm.
salesmen and all
Hmm.
that, metrics wise and all that.
Now
Um,
when you're at Phoenix, how long were you at Phoenix? Is this for a year or
yeah,
yeah?
almost a year.
Now,
Um,
uh,
s-
when I ask this
yeah,
question, I don't want you to answer it how we all want to hear you answer that. I want the truth here.
yeah.
As you're doing Phoenix and you're having success, right? You're a good leader, you're a good salesperson, so that's all good stuff. Did you miss coaching track and field? And again, don't tell me the patent. Yes, of course I did, my well, but you may not have it all. Maybe like, yeah, maybe that was still great. I want to know the truth as you're sitting there in that desk at Phoenix calling up kids, like, oh, I guess adults too, to take class, to enroll at Phoenix, where you're like, man, I am just doing this so I can get back to coaching or not.
Oh, I did. The problem is with my hours at the University of Phoenix, I couldn't really help volunteer or help out in the local high school.
Mhm.
But during that time frame, um, I actually got back into running like a
Mm.
lot.
Hmm.
and uh, and I joined a running group, like Fitness, and that's where I got into running, marathons, 5Ks, 10Ks. We had a group run every Tuesday, Thursday,
Hmm.
all that stuff. And, it was a lot of fun. Again, the camaraderie, the stress of my jobs,
Hmm.
whatever,
Hmm.
as a salesman or whatever.
Hmm.
I was really itching back into it. And I was like, man, I want to become a coach. I really do.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
I just don't have the time. I don't have the money. What do I do? Where do I go? And I was just going back and forth with different jobs, and I want to say uh, after University of Phoenix, I started working as, believe it or not, a collections caller out of all things.
Oh,
And
jeez, one of those
yeah,
guys. Holy.
yeah.
Tell me
And
this
the
was the
reason why
low
I
point
left
of
is because it's just money was a little bit better. I'm just gonna, long story short, I
yeah.
was looking for somewhere where I could make a little bit more money, and I was actually making a little bit more money as a collections caller
Yeah.
for, it was like a third party company that helped out credit unions all
Well,
around the United
tell
States.
tell me that was a low point of a profession.
Absolutely.
Okay, good. I hope so.
Absolutely. That was my low point. Better
Yeah.
money, but I'm asking myself, what am I doing? And
Yeah.
I get it. I'm sorry again. This is my opinion. It's just like I don't have the money to work on my master's degree. I don't know where to go. My parents, obviously my
Right,
parents are
right.
divorced. My dad has no money.
Right, right.
So that's no wealth. I'm like,
Yeah.
what am I doing? What am I doing?
Yeah.
So then after a couple years of um collections calling, all that, I was like, you know what? Let's go to NIU. I gotta bite the bullet. I'm gonna bite the bullet. So I ended up going to NIU. I got accepted for the master's degree program. It cost me an arm and a leg. I was going broke because of it, but
Mm,
I did it. I tried. I was working on getting my history education. I love history again, politics. That's always been my
hmm.
forte. And so in DeKalb, Illinois, not too away
Hmm.
from Rockford.
Yep.
And it was there actually, eventually, again, it got so expensive and I had to do it because if I'm not going to do it now, I'm not going to do it again in the future.
Right.
I got to do it now. I got to do it now. So, I eventually did run out of money and I
Uh-huh.
had to work at, I had to quit my school. I was like, okay, let me save some money, quit for one semester.
Hmm.
I'll work at a warehouse as a forklift driver,
Mm,
graveyard shift, because that's where you had the most money.
mm,
So I did that for a couple years. And then I'm like, man, I really want to get into coaching. Like, how do I get my foot into coaching? What do I do? And I was looking around, and there's a youth program for kids in DeKalb, and it was a track program, ages
mhm,
8 through 18, USATF, AU. I think they did both, but we went to the USATF Junior Olympics, and I called them up. I told them my background, and they're like, yeah, we'd love to have you on board. So yeah. And so while I was working graveyard shift,
mm,
as a forklifter, middle of the night in DeKalb, Illinois, I came home, had a couple hours of sleep, and then, we had practice. We had two practices, I believe, in the morning, and then we had a practice in the afternoon for kids that can't come in the morning, if I'm not mistaken. So I did both 2 days, I believe. And
mm,
that's really where I started learning about USATF. I started learning about AAU, the track and field, the politics, going to the USATF Junior Olympic Regional
mm.
Championships. It was such a great experience. I do not miss the 500 heats of the
Oh, bro.
200 ages 8 through 18. That's
Dude, so when I taught those level ones, one of the first thing I would always ask the audience to kind of get a gauge of who was in front of me, hey, how many of your high school coaches raise your hand? How many of you college coaches, et cetera, et cetera. And I've been both, been high school, been a college coach. And then I'd say, who here is my youth coaches? A couple would raise their hand. God bless y'all. Because when I moved here to Champaign to start working for Gill, there was a track club out in Mahomet, the Illini Heat or something like that. And they're like, "Oh,
Yeah,
Mike, you got to
I'm
come."
very
Yeah,
familiar.
yeah, yeah.
Great program.
Yep. They're like, "Mike, you got to come out and coach our hurdlers." I'm like, "Yeah, absolutely, absolutely." Bro, first of all, I coached at a fairly high level, and I remember working with this young kid, could have been talent. I don't know what ended up happening to, it, but really talented for a 10-year-old or 11-year-old, whatever. And so, I got the hurdles down, got the hurdles in, we're going over them, and his dad was just hanging out on the fence. And dad looks at me and goes, "Hey, so you ever gonna move those hurdles up to where they're supposed to be?" And I was like, "Yeah, exactly." Exactly. And I'm not one to go, "Look, brother, let me give you my veto of who I am." I just looked down and go, "Nope." Just keep going. So I'm like,
Yeah,
I'm not doing it, bro. So all that was good. I was having a good time. And then I went to the first meet, and it was somewhere just up north here on 57. And I go over to the long jump. I was doing long jump too, and no one was raking. So I was like, "Oh, I'll rake." 6 hours later, I'm still raking for the long jump, by the way. We haven't even got to the triple jump. And I hear on the track, because it was outside the track, I hear on the track, heat 45 of the 100. I was like, what the frick are we doing? Like, I've been here 6 hours and we're still on the 100 or whatever. I was like, I
yeah,
can't do this, man. God, that's why I say for all the people who do youth, and I'm not sure we're doing it correctly, but I'm not sure there is another better way of doing it. But God bless youth coaches who do. First of all, I don't have the mentality to handle. I can't handle my own kid. I have a freshman and sixth grader, and I can't handle raising them for crying out loud. And I have control over
yeah.
them. They're my kids. Summer youth. Oh my God. God bless you guys. It's amazing. It's amazing.
I knew back in my head if I was gonna, become a very successful coach, I had to do it. If I want to become a full-time coach, I
Right.
have to do this. you know. And is the only thing I can't be a teacher. I don't have a certification. I don't have money for that. I need to
Right.
work because I'm
Right.
paycheck by paycheck. I had to pay my bills. I had to do
Right.
this. I was very independent. I've been independent since I was 18 years old. There was no
Right.
calling mommy and daddy, hey, can you pay for my insurance? Can you do this? I did everything myself.
Right. Right.
And so when I was coaching, just all that. The regional championships, they were the longest
Mm,
because there was no qualification. Everyone just goes to the regional championships, and you qualified to go to the national championships, which is a lot more easier to handle than the regional
mm,
championships. And I was that guy that came out there, and I did help with the hurdles. I
mm,
did help with wherever I went for those couple years. I was coaching 8 through 18-year-olds. I was that guy that helped
mm.
out because I knew we all needed each other. It takes a village to put
Yeah.
together those meets,
Yeah.
and we all had to help each other no matter what. And so I was doing that. And while I was doing that, um, I was looking around colleges. I know NIU. They didn't have any room for me. They're like, yeah, who's this
Mhm.
guy? Who's this chump? I was like, whatever. We don't really care about him. We want to give an All-American to become an assistant coach or whatever. I'm like, whatever, I get it. So I called up, I talked to Chad Zeman, um, and I know he's going to be listening to his podcast. He opened up the door for me big time. I sent him an email. And he goes, and I asked him, hey, Jit, can I become a volunteer coach, any position available? He goes, you know what? We don't have the resources to pay you, whatever, but I would love to have an assistant coach, especially with your background with USATF and all that stuff. You can handle my recruiting. Well, sounds like you're pretty. I'm looking at your resume and I still got the email somewhere in my Yahoo account from like 12, 13 years ago. So I'm like, no, geez, back in 2011, 2010. And so, yeah, I ended up being his volunteer coach while I'm coaching USATF during the summer. And I'm still driving a forklift
Oof.
in the middle of the night, graveyard shift.
Now,
I mean, I was only averaging maybe yeah,
not
yeah,
everybody knows
three to
Chad.
5 hours of sleep.
Tell us where
Mhm.
that is. Where's Chad? You said this opportunity. Not everybody knows who Chad is and where he's at.
He was the head cross country track coach at he was at the time at Rockford College.
Yeah.
And now he's out of the business. I mean, family. You know how it is,
Yeah.
Mike. When you got a
Yeah.
family
Yeah.
and you're not making a lot of money, especially at a small school like
Right.
Rockford,
Hmm.
he got out of the business of coaching. He still coaches private, he does private coaching.
Hmm.
He was a very successful uh, triathlete coach. He was a
Hmm.
very successful triathlete as well. And actually, just recently, they honored him at Marengo High School. He's got a banner because he all stated for cross country. So just recently, he was honored at Marengo High School because of his successes as a cross country track coach.
That's cool.
But even though like so he was really responsible for the cross country distance side of things. I was I helped out the GA who went to the college in New Jersey. Am I correct there?
TCNJ. Yep. Hmm.
Yeah, yeah. So she was an all-American hurdler. And so I was there at the same time she was for a couple of years. And I assisted her with all the hurdlers, the jumpers, and all that stuff. And then I also helped out Chad with the distance side things. I enjoyed like trying to learn pick his brain on what he
Hmm.
was doing. And then I did all recruiting, man. I
So,
did pretty much a lot of the recruiting. I stayed late nights, 9, 10, 11 p.m. before I had to work at my
yeah,
graveyard shift.
and that's the thing. So, Nick, I'm not a fan of volunteer coaches. I'm
Mhm.
not because you should get paid. It's my opinion. When we started
Yeah,
our internship program here, I was like, all right, as long as we pay them. I was like, I won't do unpaid interns. Like that's crazy to me. Like we're asking for you to
yeah,
produce value, and we're not going to give monetary reward back. Same thing with our coach. You're busting your hump there, Rockford, and I'm not throwing Chad or Rockford or anybody on the bus because certainly that was not abnormal, and probably still today in 2026 is not that abnormal. But you're working extremely hard. You're working. I worked midnights when I was in Chicago too, and I know that's one of the another God bless people who work the third shift, brother. Holy crap. It's unbelievable
yeah.
what that does to your body and everything. You're doing all that, plus you're working the USATF. I mean, ever a time in your head that you're just like, you know what? What am I doing? This coaching thing. I'm putting tons of hours and I'm getting $50 at the end of the season. What am I doing here? Any thoughts like that ever cross your mind at this point?
You know what? You know what thought came across my mind was, man, I'm changing their lives.
Hmm.
These kids are looking up to me. Seriously, they're looking up to me. And I had such a great relationship with the college kids. I had a great relationship with the 8 to 18-year-old kids, the parents. Like it was like, I know for me, I wish I had that when I was growing up as a kid somehow, some
Yeah.
way, you know? And DeKalb, if you're familiar with DeKalb, isn't like again, not a lot of money
Right.
into that city, and it's just like these kids I'm working with, again, many of them come from low income neighborhoods, broken homes, whatever. And to me, I was like, man, this is awesome. I'm really changing their lives. That's what comes to my mind.
That's cool.
And of course my dad, he's always giving me a hard time. You must get better job with better money. I don't understand what you're doing.
It's true.
I don't understand like dad. Listen, man, we grew up poor. I get what you're saying. We grew up in a tough life and I told him like, listen, it's not like I'm in debt or anything. I'm paycheck by paycheck. We're working. We're making this work. We're
Mm,
making this work. Um, so eventually, after I was at Rockford College as a volunteer coach, I believe a year and a half, maybe 2 years. I was still doing USATF. I was still working graveyard shift. And then some great memories when I was part of the NAC conference at Rockford College, and great, awesome memories. But Chad was leaving, our head coach. He's really his wife was the breadwinner, so they had to move, and I don't know the whole. Let's just say that it was his wife's way. He had to follow where his
mm,
wife was going
mm.
career wise. Um, and I eventually resigned as well as a volunteer coach because I got my very first stipend, full-time stipend, at Geneva High School
Nice.
in yep, in the west suburbs.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're familiar with Geneva High School, they have a very powerful distance program, very good distance program under Coach Peter Rock for cross country, and then the distance side is track things. And then it was Coach Gross, who was head of track and field, a very successful throws coach. And it was night and day from going from school with no resources, going to school with a
Mm.
lot of resources.
Yeah.
And I think we had and maybe like 6 to 8 coaches on the staff, you know. And so my responsibility at first was high jump, long jump, triple jump. And I eventually, because it was just so much, they actually got another coach in there to help with high jump. And I was just responsible for long jump and triple jump.
Wow.
And it was a nice stipend too. I was like,
Yeah.
yeah. At the time, I was
Yeah.
like, this is pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and at the time also, I still worked as a forklift driver, but I also had another job. I worked at Geneva Running Outfitters, which is a running specialty store,
Mm-hmm.
which now they closed a couple years ago, but it was my first taste of working in a running specialty store, learning about, equipment and,
Mm-hmm.
shoes, running shoes, track spike. It was really cool. And even today, I'm still working at a running specialty store. It's always been
Mm-hmm.
my backup. Um,
What and you have whatever little time you have in your day, you need to be
mhm,
sleeping somewhere here, so you can say none at this
none.
point. I get it. What are you doing coaching education wise to become a better coach? And I tend to put these things into two buckets: formal and informal. Formal being like our level ones, and I imagine you probably maybe went to that when you're doing that at Rockford. Informal is I'm calling up this other really good coach and saying, hey, how do I handle long jump and triple jump plus the high jump or things like that? What are you doing at this point, coaching education wise?
You know what? I'm going to back up just a little bit, Mike, because you just reminded me. While I was at Rockford College, I paid out of my own dime to go to the USATF Level 1 coaching certification course outside of Philadelphia. It was an
Mm,
HBCU school.
hmm.
I don't remember what it was called anymore.
Yeah, maybe Lincoln. I know Lincoln's out that way, and I
Mm,
think they're the very first HBCU ever. Um,
it was really way out there.
yeah.
It was really in the countryside,
Hmm.
like an exurb of Philadelphia.
Hmm.
And I remember going there, and this was the 10th anniversary of 9/11,
Hmm.
and Coach Andrew Alden was there.
Hmm.
I went up to Coach Alden. I had so much, I learned so much. I did
Hmm.
for level one. I learned so much. It
Yeah,
was a great
absolutely.
opportunity.
Hmm.
And I'll go up to Coach Alden and I go, hey, can you, any way possible, you can host a USATF Level 1 coaching certification course in Rockford College?
Mm.
And he goes, yeah, we've been looking to get something up in the Chicagoland
Hmm.
area. Don't get me wrong, Rockford's not considered the Chicagoland area.
Hmm.
It's sort of like outside of the exurb, I like to call
Right.
it.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I like that. Yeah, yeah.
But we still had a lot of Chicago, you
Yeah.
know, people coming. Of course, for my career, I think this is going to be a good
Hmm.
opportunity.
Hmm.
So Andrew Alden, like I was the site coordinator,
Yeah.
which is awesome.
Yeah.
I picked up. I remember picking up Coach Judge, his name, Coach
Hmm.
Judge. You
Yeah.
yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Oh
think
yeah.
you just popped in. I think you drove in. I still remember you I still remember
Yeah.
first time I met you too, Mike,
Yeah.
by the way,
Yeah.
where
I,
we had
I
a talk. And I remember Coach Alden, and then for those 2 years, we hosted, and they loved the setup. I guess we
hmm.
didn't have a track
Hmm.
on campus,
Right.
but we had a really nice big auditorium.
I say you had like auditorium seating, if I remember. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I remember. It was great.
Mhm.
Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah,
I
yep. I
do.
still got pictures.
Oh.
I still remember, Pavlansky was out there
Yeah,
in
Dave.
the
Hmm.
on
Hmm.
campus and doing all these drills. I'm like, dude, this
Yeah.
is awesome. I was I was just soaking it up, brother.
Yeah.
I was just
Yeah.
soaking it. I was so
That's
excited,
awesome.
especially because as a volunteer coach, I was able to get them to come here,
Right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right.
and it put us on the map, I guess, per se. And
Hmm.
I'm sure Chad loved it and everything. I mean, I was a go-getter, still am a
That's
go-getter.
cool.
Yeah, yeah. So I learned a lot from that.
Good.
Um, and then eventually went to Geneva High School.
Hmm.
I was there for about 1 year. Coaching. It was a great experience. We ended up going to Eastern Illinois University. We had a couple of state qualifiers. None of my long jumpers, triple jumpers. Uh, one long jumper missed it by like 1 or 2 spots. I don't
Mm.
remember how it went, but he almost made it. I think what happened was there was another kid from another school that was injured all year, and it was his first jump, and he qualified.
Mm.
Just like, so we
Jeez.
were this close. Justin Nebel was my athlete that was supposed to qualify for state, and we missed it.
Was it three classes at that time?
But we ended up going to Eastern Illinois University. What's that?
Was it three classes at that time or still the two?
What'd you say?
Was it three classes at that time or was
I
it
don't
still
remember
two?
now.
Yeah, I don't remember when that
Just
happened. Yeah.
2014, 2000, no, 2013. It was the spring of 2013 is
Hmm.
when we went to the state championships. I don't
Hmm.
know if it was 2 or 3
Yeah, I don't remember when
classes.
they made that change. I when I coached in Chicago, we were two. I love the two classes, big school, small school. Let's get it done. I like that. So I was bummed
Yeah,
when they went to three, but I also understand. Okay, you said you're there for a year. What happened?
yeah. Those well, first of all, Coach Alden calls me up because, he asked me if I wanted to two things going on here. Um, from what I remember, he wanted a voluntary coach to come with him to University of South Carolina, if you remember.
Hmm.
And he coached there for several years. That fell through. It was just I can't do the volunteer thing. It was just I'm trying to figure out money wise. I
Yeah.
just started dating my now wife.
Hmm.
So, I was like, man, I gotta leave her and just go to South Carolina, no money. And I even called up to Fleet Feeds, can I work there? He said no spots. And so that all that fell through. I wish I was born in wealth because I would have gone immediately to work with him.
Hmm.
But it just didn't, everything just didn't work out. But I ended up going to USATF level 2 coaching certification for youth clubs
Hmm.
at North Carolina A&T.
Oh yeah. Hmm.
Yep. But the Junior Olympics was there, but the courses were held at UNC Greenville.
Hmm.
So they're in the same location, if I'm not mistaken.
Hmm. Yep.
So I got my youth certification. It was a phenomenal. I loved it. It was so much fun. I mean, any of the listeners out there who have not taken any of these coaching certification courses, you got to do it. You got to do it. Networking is amazing. You soak in a lot of experience.
Hmm.
But I ended up going to after that, I actually got a call from Triton College because I applied for the head coaching position.
Hmm.
And they asked me, hey, it's a stipend. It's only $4,000 or $5,000. But do you want to become our head coach here and start the program from scratch in a
Hmm.
20-year hiatus? So I was like, yeah. I mean, so, got my interview, all that stuff. I eventually got the job. I still remember in the interview, my athletic director here in McGinnis retired. He'd been there for so many years. Uh, a lot of athletic directors will dress up in three-piece suits. He's driving in with a 1980 Mazda Miata, and just like it was just a different ball game, man. But he is such a hard worker, and he was going 110 miles per hour to make sure every program worked. And
Hmm.
I remember during the interview, he looked at me and said, "Hey, I got 3 other candidates right now. Tell me a little bit more about yourself. Tell me about your background. I love the military. I love the fact that you're in the military. And yeah, I still remember he was multitasking actually. He was working on something else while he was doing an interview with me.
Hmm.
And yeah, and then eventually I got the call after that interview. And after 20-year hiatus, run down track, can never use it. I mean, you can't even run on it. It was so dangerous.
Hmm.
Uh, you say, yeah, you got the job, man. And I was
Wow.
like, cool.
What's
So,
what's that like starting a program from zero?
it was difficult. It was very difficult. Um, I had a lot of like meetings and stuff. Informational meetings. Think about junior college, especially the junior college, Triton College. These kids. And this is one of the reason why they hired me because I speak Polish.
Mm.
And that whole area, Triton College has the largest ESL program in the United States.
No way.
Yeah, out of all the JUCO schools,
Wow.
that's the largest ESL program.
Huh.
This is back in 2013. I don't know about
Yeah, yeah,
now,
yeah,
but I'm
yeah.
sure it is.
Wow.
So we had a large population. We're not like low income, but they're very middle class. These we like to call them yellow vesters. These parents are going, they work blue collar jobs at O'Hare. They work blue collar jobs somewhere. They're all Polish,
Hmm.
Mexican, Ukrainian, Puerto Rican. So my team was a smorgasbord of different nationalities, very diverse. And what made it hard was that unlike Harper College, where it's in a very affluent area, Palatine, Barrington, you got those kids, God bless them. Yeah, those kids don't have to work. I had kids that had to work
Mm.
to make ends meet to support their families,
Right.
all of them. And this is the NJCA Division III, so there was no athletic scholarships.
Right. That's right.
So they had to work and they had to work, and it was so difficult. And even today, they just can't get large numbers
Hmm.
because you can't get enough dedicated student athletes to join. We didn't have like 20 to 30 kids. I only had maybe six, seven.
Right.
And what I had to do, because they had to work in the afternoons or the mornings, whatever, I had to do two separate practices uh, for kids who can't make it to the morning because they had to work, or for kids that couldn't come in the afternoon.
Right.
Is, you know what I'm saying? So the two assistant coaches that I was responsible for, we traded off. We traded off.
He had
We
two
had to.
assistant coaches
Yeah, two
paid.
part-time assistant coaches.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but paid a little bit.
It was like 2 grand,
Yeah, yeah,
fifteen
yeah.
hundred
Hey,
bucks.
better than 50 bucks at the end. That's
But they did
amazing though
it.
that you had that much support though. That's great.
Yeah. I had one coach. She was a sprinter at Eastern Illinois University. She was fluent in Polish, so that was big. And then I had another kid. Um, uh, I'm gonna make sure he listens to it. Shane Petrelli. He was my throws coach. I also had another assistant coach later on that I also hired, Jeremy Rustin. He was good. He ran at Wisconsin lacrosse. So, and my coaching staff was good and we
Yeah.
got along well. We had such a great relationship. We understand there's a lot of obstacles, but we did what we can for the whole track season.
Hmm.
I remember the first year, I had a 26-year-old mom from Slovakia with two kids qualify for the national championships in the
Wow.
1500. I mean, how cool is that?
Holy cow.
Yeah. How
That's
cool is that?
awesome. That is cool.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. And, and she's trying to study, become a teacher. And she ended up going to Concordia, Chicago. She ended up running cross country and track over there. For me, again, Mike, like for me, it was rewarding because I was teaching these kids, I was given the opportunity, you know, to be someone in life. I wasn't like, I was very, very dedicated. I know my pay was not that
Right.
good,
Right.
but I woke up 5 o'clock in the morning. Mike, I never missed practices. I was there
Hmm.
every single day for those two track seasons. We didn't have a cross country team, so I started, and Harry was he was such a great athletic director. He supported me starting up a cross country club.
Yeah.
I'm trying everything I can to get things rolling,
Hmm.
and I wasn't getting paid. I was not getting paid during the fall. There was no stipend.
Right.
But I'm trying to get something jump started. So I started my own cross country club. I had a couple OPRF kids that joined a team. What was it? East Leiden High School, all that. So I had a couple of kids, and they had to pay their own way to compete in some of these meets, and we did.
Wow.
And as a
Mhm.
club, and it was fun. So I did that for 2 years.
Okay.
So I
Where
was
do
at
we
Trent College for 2 years.
where do we go next?
So I was living with my girlfriend. I think I went to another USATF level 2 course at that time. So I have three. level two certifications. And I think Triton, no, it came out of my own pocket. Triton College wasn't willing to pay for it
Right.
because they didn't have the money. So it came out of my credit card. And I ended up going to UNC, uh, no,
Hmm.
Marion University. So they
Really?
hosted, I went there
Mm-hmm.
twice. So this time it
Mm-hmm.
was for jumps. I believe it was jumps and sprints, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, and then I got a job immediately at Ursuline College
Hmm.
in Pepper Pike, Ohio.
Mm-hmm.
And I applied there. I was like, listen, I told my Harry, I'm trying to get up this ladder because I need money. I was like,
Mm-hmm.
I got his girlfriend, she's paying for everything. And I'm sitting here like, I got multiple jobs, but I'm
Yeah.
getting no money.
Yeah.
Volunteer
Yeah.
coach. I am my own USATF level. By this time I have my own club too. High
Wow.
school only age kids. And it
Not
was only
making any
like,
money off of that?
no, like $150 a kid. That's it. I mean, I only had like 10, 15 kids.
So
Um,
You go to Ursuline. Ursline's full time. Yeah.
yeah. So I went to Ursuline, Pepper Pike, east of Cleveland. And then I ended up being their jumps coach per se.
Mm-hmm.
I was their jumps coach there.
If I have to
And
imagine life changes, not life changing, but life changes to a positive when you get a full time paying gig here now in the thing that you've wanted.
it's part-time still. It's part-time still.
Mm.
Yeah, I applied everywhere, and it was still part-time. It was $10,000, I believe, from what I remember.
So you
And
moved
then,
from home, Rockford, west suburbs, down to Ursuline for a part-time job.
yeah, well, so my wife still stayed in Schaumburg. I moved
Mm-hmm.
with her in Schaumburg, Illinois.
Mm-hmm.
She was my fiance girlfriend at the time,
Mm-hmm.
and I travel back every other weekend just to see her and everything.
Bro.
And Coach, uh, oh man, Coach Tutsky, I believe his name. I'm really bad now. And then Coach Best. So Coach Best was the full head coach, and Coach Tutsky was I'm sorry, cross country coach. Coach Tutsky was a head track and field coach.
Is that Jason?
What's that?
Jason?
Yeah, they're together. They work together. And we were and then eventually, we didn't have that many jumpers. It was their first year there too.
Mm.
So it's a brand new coaching staff, and they didn't have any numbers. I mean, it was hard, and they were trying to rebuild that program, and it was and then December rolls around, and I was talking to my wife because really all I was doing was driving the vans. I didn't do a lot of jumping, coaching with the jumps because Coach Tutsky was involved with that. I was helping him sometimes, and then my wife just said, "Can you please move back?"
Yeah, bro,
So
smart woman. Okay, I'm with her.
yeah, and I'm like, "All right," we got engaged at time that during my holiday break there. And we I called up Illinois Tech, and they had an opportunity, same pay, $10,000, assistant coach. Actually, I negotiated with the head coach at the time, and I said, "Can you do this pay?" And he's like, "I'll be back to you." He's like, "Okay, we'll do it." So yeah, and then the blessings of Coach Tutsky and Coach Best, they said, "Yeah, it's okay. We get it. We're still trying to build here. That's fine." And I'm
I
like,
know
"Okay, cool."
I
So
know you're being nice, and I know they were being nice. I have a hard time when I hear something like they gave the blessing. I'm not. This is not an indictment on those two. It's on the system of like, well, what do
yeah,
you mean? Yeah, I get to go back to my fiance. It's not like I'm going it to make zero. I'm at least making the same, guys. But actually, it is a pay raise because I'm not driving every other weekend back to see my fiance, my future wife here. So blessings. Like, get the hell out of here. Of course, go back to your fiance, your wife, bro. Get out of here, man. How'd you
yeah,
like Illinois Tech? It's a tough school. It's an engineering school, small school, very concrete laden. I'd say, there's not a lot of grass and stuff like that. A lot of buildings there, and in a tough part of the neighborhood. You're on the south side
yeah.
there at 65th and State, essentially. 35th and
Well,
state.
the biggest challenge there, and I was there for about a year and a half, 2 years, was the academics. It
Yeah.
was very tough, very rigorous. And correct
They,
me if I'm wrong, Mike. A lot of it's hard recruiting females. A lot of females want to become teachers or something
yeah,
because they don't want to go STEM.
yeah, maybe not. Yeah.
And Illinois Tech, we're that whole school was, I want to say, a larger population of males,
Oh,
and
sure.
we had to try. We always had small female teams,
Hmm.
and it was just so hard. And all the women's sports they're struggling there,
Hmm.
and it's not because, absolutely not because the athletic director, not because the coaches. It's just the dynamics of Illinois Tech,
Hmm.
Illinois Institute of Technology. It's a very rigorous STEM school. Everything, all their classes, and you know that you take English class, there's got to be some sort of STEM component to it.
Hmm.
I mean, it
Hmm.
was just like I've
Yep.
never heard anything like that
Yep.
until again when I came here to the University of Dallas and was coaching here for 6 years. But we'll
Yep.
talk more about that later. But
Hmm.
it was a different ball game,
Yeah.
and um, but it was a lot of fun. I helped the cross country coach again. I was like his little sidekick driving the vans. I helped out with some of the couple other athletes that weren't fast, so
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
helped them out, while Coach Keith Burke was in charge of the faster kids per se. Um, Track was absolutely fun. I One of my most memorable experiences was breaking the 4x4 school record. It was because we worked hard for that all year long.
Awesome.
This was during a transitional period where Illinois Tech was going from NAIA to Division three.
Mm.
So we couldn't compete in any championships
Right.
for a few years.
Right.
So I'm telling my athletes, we gotta motivate ourselves to do something. We can't compete in the conference championships. We can't do any of this. So I'll never forget, we went to Benedictine University and we did the 4x4. The weather just got warmer, the faster times. And when they got that school record, we worked hard all year long. 6 a.m. workouts. We had to because the academics there is very rigorous. We couldn't do anything in the afternoons. Forget
Right.
it. All of our practices had all sports at that time had 6 a.m. workouts due to
Hmm.
the academic rigorous standards at Illinois Tech. So we worked hard, and I still remember we broke that record. And I still remember everyone was celebrating and they lift me up on their shoulders
Mm.
and we were all hugging and all these others. And
That's
we came like third, fourth place at the
right. Right.
meet
Right. Right.
for the
Right.
4x4.
Yeah.
And everyone was like, why are you guys celebrating?
Yeah.
As we broke the school record.
That's awesome.
And that was like our championship moment,
Yeah.
Mike.
Yeah. You got to make
And
those. I love that.
Oh, it was a great feeling because I worked with them one-on-one all year, and our specialty was a 400. You know, that's the only thing we can, we did the 100, 200, but we figured if we're gonna be successful in one event, let's focus on the 400 meters and the four by
Right.
four, especially the 4x4. And we had one distance kid that solid 50, 49, 51, whatever,
Hmm.
so
Hmm.
he was always around that, such a solid guy. And then we had three other 400-meter specialists, and that was really cool.
That's awesome.
um yeah.
I love
And
that.
but the recruiting was very difficult there. we
Yeah.
we still did a good job recruiting. It was just, again, the women's side is different because I don't know about the American culture, and this is just my opinion only, so I could be wrong. But the American culture on the women's side, they just don't want to do anything with STEM. I mean,
Hmm.
they're not really, they really don't want, they want to become teachers, English teachers, kindergarten teachers. And
Hmm.
I get it because, once they're pregnant, I get it, and they want the summers off and all that stuff. I get it. But man, it was hard getting, and even today, they're still having a lot of difficulties recruiting females that come to Illinois Tech,
Hmm.
but
Yeah.
that
Makes
was a
sense.
memorable 2 years. Mike.
For the sake of time, we're running to the
Mhm.
last 10, 15 minutes here. Keep us moving forward. Where do we go next? Are you married at this? Did you get married during Illinois Tech?
I am
Awesome.
married,
That's a big responsibility. That changes where
10-year
you think about
anniversary.
going.
What's that?
I said that makes you change where you think about you can even go to coach and things like that, your
Yeah.
mobility. So what do we do after Illinois Tech and being married?
So just keep this short. Everything after Illinois Tech. So everything went from Illinois Tech. I eventually had a couple jobs, still part-time coaching jobs. Went to Harper. Long story short with that, this is after Illinois Tech. Go to Harper. We won second place in the NJCAA national championships for the
Wow.
women. The men came in sixth place.
Wow.
Lots of school records broken. Renee Zellner, phenomenal coach. She was a pioneer of women getting into coaching. She was one of the first.
Hmm,
It was a joy to work under her. She's a professor there. I think she just retired as a professor. Now she's a coach.
hmm.
I did that for one season because it closer to home. Harper was right down the street from me, and they needed another coach. So I was pretty much like their associate head coach per se because Renee was always gone. She was a throws coach, so she was off track all the time.
Hmm.
So I felt like a lot of my responsibilities was on the track and just trying to manage everybody and also coaching as well with the
Right.
long jumpers, triple jumpers, especially high jumpers. Also helping Coach McNider, who Jim McNider, if you know him, he's a won several cross country NJCAA championships with Harper College as
Hmm.
well. So it was great working with them. Um, but again, it was a stipend, whatever, for I think it was like $10,000 again, just for that one season. And then I worked at Barrington High School, special education aide. Then became, and they again, I became an assistant coach, stipend and everything. And that was great. Again, a great experience. We came third place in conference. And we're 3A by this time, and we had a couple state qualifiers. I think we placed top 10 somewhere in the state championships. And then finally, I got my first time gig as a working with the Chicago Area Runners Association.
Hmm. Hmm.
And this we pretty much were advocates for runners in the Chicagoland community. I was also coaching, help coach youth. I was a marathon coach. Anyone that, we had a race circuit. We had multiple roles there
Hmm.
because there was only seven of us in this not-for-profit organization. So have you ever heard of the New York Roadrunners? We're in the same category with them,
Right.
same exact thing. And it's a flourishing organization. And right now, it's led by Tim Bradley, who coached at SLU. He was a head cross country
Hmm.
coach at SLU, St. Louis University, and now he is the head coach. I'm sorry, now he's the executive director of CARA, and
Hmm.
he's been doing a phenomenal job.
Nice.
Um, the person who hired me there was my old roommate from Northern Illinois. He was a head coach at Northern Illinois University, Greg Hipp, and
Yeah.
he worked there. Now he works for Chicago Events Management, which puts together the Chicago Marathon
I
and all that.
wonder. I know Greg very well, and I was like,
Yeah,
he was care. I was like, where did he end up going? Yeah, good for him.
yeah.
He's a
So
good
yeah,
dude.
you know him. He went to Appalachian State,
Hmm.
coached there, coached at one of the Missouri State schools. I
Hmm.
think now it's Missouri State. It used to be
Hmm.
something else before that. Correct
Right.
me if I'm wrong.
Nope, you're right.
And then eventually ended up going to Northern Illinois University.
Right.
And then one thing led to another. And I think same thing with him. He
We'll,
didn't
we'll,
want he
we'll,
got
we'll we'll have him on the podcast later. Keep going with your story.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And
Love you, Greg, because I know
eventually
you're listening, but we staying on Nick here. Keep going, Nick.
yeah, eventually we're at Cara and I get the phone call. I applied to other places. University of Dallas calls me up and says, "Hey, we're gonna fly you down. We want to interview you." And it was just like early September, actually very late last weekend of August, I believe. And I had one full day of interviews, and literally I got hired at the airport. So yeah, yeah. So I was at the airport. I was eating barbecue because I didn't have a chance. I know Texas is known for barbecue, so it's some sort of barbecue thing at Chili's. I don't know.
Sure.
And I get a phone call, And I'll never forget this. The athletic director said, it wasn't the athletic director, HR. They blew the gun. HR said, "Hey, you need to sign his contract. We need to see you now." I'm like, "What are you talking about? I'm at the airport." So the athletic director was supposed to contact me, or talk to me after the interview or contact me and say, "Hey, you got the job," because apparently I got the job already,
Hmm.
you know. And so I was in the airport and I'm asking HR, like, "What? So that mean I got hired?" "Yeah, you got hired." I'm like, so somebody blew the gun here. Um, but I had to fly back home. We did everything online whatsoever.
Hmm.
It was really a big, quick turnaround. I only had a couple days. Bless my wife. She had a small, was it a 1 year old at the time? My daughter, she was one. And so it got really bit difficult for her for a couple months. She
Yeah.
finally moved down in October, but that first year as a head cross country coach, lots of memories. I had such a great time. They're all juniors and seniors by this time. I was able to coach Anna Wilgenbush, our first NCAA All-American, the only one from the state of Texas. If you're familiar with
Hmm.
D3, it's not that strong in the South as it is in the North. And so she won regionals easily by like 30 seconds, the South regionals. And then she eventually, we went to the national championships and she had a great time. I think she placed like 32nd or something like that. And it was a phenomenal experience with her. And I coached her again 2 years later after COVID. Went back down to national championships. It was a lot of fun with her. I had some great times, great leadership there. We didn't have a track. That made things so much difficult.
Right.
Heat made things so much difficult.
Yeah.
Recruiting made things difficult because I think the dynamics of recruiting so different in the South is in the
Mm.
North, like
Hmm.
big time,
Hmm.
big time. So
So double click into that. Why? Because what I love about this, I'm with you. I agree with you. Because I push back on some coaches that'll say, regardless of where you put me, I'm a monster recruiter. I'll recruit there. It doesn't matter if I'm at Notre Dame, University of Dallas, Harper College, UCLA. It's like, oh no, no, that's not true. Each one of those schools, every school is different. Not only the school itself, but how much money you're going to get allocated, D3 versus D1. I also agree with you regionally, North versus South, East, West, etc. What was your experience there on why it was different being at in Dallas compared to some of those
I will say
schools?
this, the number one thing, D3 coaches, even D2 coaches, we experience a lot here is the D1 or bust mentality is so prevalent in the South than it is in the North. And a lot of it's because of
Interesting.
football. Football's king here. And so that's one reason. Another reason is because of heat. Heat has always been such a big issue here. I just think cross country overall, I think compared to the North, and I don't want, I like schools like South Lake here, they're great schools. The thing is, there's 20 South Lakes in the Chicagoland area.
Hmm.
There's 20 South Lakes up in the state of New York. And so the times, once they get out, these kids are getting full rides or very good partial scholarships running 19, 18-minute 5Ks male at NAIA schools.
Hmm.
Number one. Number two, they're going to go D1 or bust, and so just recruiting and then the heat. The heat is unbearable here.
Yeah.
And, we have to have 6 a.m. workouts. You can't increase the VO2 max velocity. You can't do the workouts when it comes to VO2 anaerobic workouts compared to what it is in the north.
Hmm.
You go to University of Wisconsin lacrosse, they got 60-degree weather all the way out throughout the whole fall. We don't do that. It's 90, 100 degrees still early mornings
Hmm.
in November,
Hmm.
in October going into November. So it could be difficult at times. You know, um,
How many years were you at University of Dallas?
six
So how
long, beautiful years,
so
great,
how
great years.
so how did you adjust? You're a smart guy. What you did in year one was probably not how you necessarily did it in year six. How did you adjust recruiting and coaching with all of that going on?
Well, I think one thing was we 6 a.m. workouts every day. Um, I really had to, I stopped recruiting kids from the north to come down here. It wasn't happening, you know. Um, so I had to recruit kids from Texas, and University of Dallas is in the same situation with Illinois Tech. So University of Dallas is a classical education school.
Hmm.
So I can't recruit because of that curriculum is way different from Illinois Tech. I can't recruit kids from JUCO schools to come in.
Hmm.
So I had to adjust to that as well. I can't recruit any JUCO schools. I had to
Right.
recruit kids from classical education curriculum. We were at one time voted the most religious university in the United States, more religious than
Really?
BYU, according to
Wow.
niche.com. It's a very, very Catholic university.
Wow.
So we get a lot of kids coming down here that are not Catholic, and they're like, I don't know. It wasn't for
So,
them,
so
you
did
know.
you recruit Catholic schools more
I did.
than, yeah.
I
Hmm.
had to.
Hmm.
I had to. Catholic school kids, classical education curriculum schools, which is
What,
more popular in the
uh,
South than it is
I'm,
up in the North.
I'm not smart enough. What
Yeah.
does that mean? Classical educational model or whatnot you just said there.
So these kids have to read. There's more reading than your stereotypical like public university or even some most private schools.
Okay.
Um, they have that they have to read all books of Dante. In some many high schools, they have to read all books of Dante.
Okay.
They have to read all the different types of literature. It's all about reading, reading,
So it's
reading.
much more
That's what me and
reading
my
based. Got it. Okay. Okay.
yeah, reading based. So you know how Illinois
Yeah.
Tech is STEM based,
Hmm. Hmm.
MIT STEM based. University of Dallas is a very Catholic, very classical school. It's the
Yeah.
only classical education curriculum here in the state of Texas.
Hmm.
So you have to have a very high ACT or SAT score in reading
Right. Right.
just to be admitted here. I can't just go to DeSoto and Lancaster High School and get kids to come to UD. It was
Right.
impossible.
Right.
It was a very impossible. Great schools, great coaches, but it was just like I had to be very, very selective on the schools we had to recruit from.
Right.
And of course, we're Division III, so there is no athletic scholarships.
Right.
And Mike, I was sitting in the office 9, 10, 11 o'clock, 2 to 3 days a week, just making phone call after
Right.
phone call after phone call. My whiteboard had 1,000 names on her. You say your recruit had your the coach you were talking to earlier. You said he had 5 names. No, I had 1,000.
Hmm.
You know, and it was something. So cross country and track is very different in the South than it is in the North. I know that a lot of people say, well, you guys got the Power Five here. Yes, that's relevant. LSU, you got University of Texas, all that. But then you look at like the standings from D1 to D3. I want to say majority of them are going to come from the North from one reason or another, especially in the cross country side of things.
Hmm.
It's Wisconsin lacrosse. You got Johns Hopkins.
Hmm.
You've got Wash U. North
Hmm.
Central, Al Carius,
Hmm.
and down here, it's just like, it is very far behind.
Hmm.
Like Anna was the only All-American from the South region the 2 times
Right.
we competed in the national championships.
Right.
That's
Right.
it.
Right.
So none of the D3 schools were, for cross country and track were able to compete alongside the northern states.
So
No.
let me ask you, Nick, we're past time, so I'm gonna ask you one more
Yeah,
question here to wrap this up. So what are you, I don't know if this is a great way to ask this. So what are you looking for? You're out of coaching today, and
yeah,
I find that interesting because your heart is still, you're still, by the way, whether you're actually working in a track and field program or not, you're still a coach at heart here. So whether you're
absolutely.
working with teammates, your children, your coach that goes beyond how do I make someone run a 10K faster? What are you today looking for? Is it still yearning for coaching? Is it still yearning for, when I say relevance, I don't mean it like in an influencer way, meaning like I have influence over people to get better, leadership. I mean, you're the military. That's what, gosh, if you look at the definition of leadership, it says military for crying out loud. What are you looking for today?
Well, it's funny you mentioned that because, yeah, as you know, I did resign from the University of Dallas this past September. I had amazing long years there. Unfortunately, we had a high turnaround of coaches in the past. I was actually the second longest coach there in 50-year history. I did my
Wow.
6 full years, and right behind legendary coach Harry Hall. He was a very good coach. He did 11 years at the University of Dallas. But after my 6 years, was some family conflicts that was going on. And my athletic director were amazing. We sat down. It was just all that traveling. That's another thing. When you're in a D3 down here, you can do one full season in Chicago, indoor and outdoor, and even cross country without leaving the Chicagoland area. You might hop
Mm,
over to Wisconsin. It's not the case down here in Texas.
mm,
I mean, we had to travel from state to state on weekends. I'm gone all weekend because we had all these cross country and track meets because there's nothing available in the Dallas Fort Worth area.
right.
Um, so eventually, it took a toll on my wife, who eventually got a promotion, and our grandparents couldn't take care of the kids anymore. But now the grandparents living with us now, it makes things a lot more easier. I think my background in compliance and eligibility and all that, because I none of my
Yeah.
schools had any resources. So,
Right.
we had to learn everything yourself. Travel, we didn't
Right.
have secretaries that do our reimbursement for, receipts and all. Everything was done by myself, and especially at University of Dallas. I was interviewed for an athletic director position in the DFW area, high schools and colleges. So I'm looking to get into that role. I'm still open to become a cross country track coach here in the Dallas Fort Worth area. We're not moving anymore.
Yeah.
So we're grounded here. But that's pretty much what I'm looking for. And I really want to get involved in athletics. I
Mm.
really do, whether as a coach or an administrator.
Right.
So,
Yeah, I think you do great as an administrator. You do have a varied background. Working at a lot of small schools, you're exactly right. You learn a compliance job, you learn a counselor's job, you learn an admissions job. So to be able to do that and to be able to, as an athletic director, your job is to coach the coaches who then go on to coach the athletes. Kind of a little bit similar in the sense of like what my role is in regards to track coach advocacy. And I had to figure that out. It wasn't an immediate. I've missed being in the long jump pit when I first got here to Gill.
yeah,
And then, something clicked and I
yeah,
was like, wait a minute, if I take care of the coaches, I help way more athletes than when I was directly coaching them. But I think, the thing I bless you the most for, what I want for the most for you is stability. I mean, your journey, a year here, 6 months here, driving back and forth every other weekend to see the fiance who becomes the wife. I mean, that just weighs on working midnights. That'll age you,
yeah,
brother. You know it
yeah, yeah,
better than I do. Love
yeah,
that. It made me smile when you said we're not moving anymore. It's like, oh, good. That's part of stability is being there, growing roots, learning neighbors, learning teachers from your kids' classes and things like that, other parents. So that's what I just bless for you and the family more than anything, honestly, is just stability and then happiness. Being happy with where you are and what you're doing and the influence that you do
yeah.
have. And so I'm really I want an update. I know it should be coming up here in the next couple of weeks to know that.
Hopefully.
Yeah, I want some. I think some positive news is coming your way, and I
Hmm.
wanna be able to hear that. Nick, the most valuable thing you can give me is time, brother. So I'm so grateful for your time today, your journey. I told you, it was going to be important to hear this journey because, not all journeys are A to B and done, or, sometimes there's A, B, C,
Yeah.
D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, P. I
I paid my
love,
dues, Mike. I paid
yeah,
my dues.
the word, this just kind of hit me. I didn't think about this during, but it just hit me. The word I would describe you in your journey is persistence. Going to
Absolutely.
the military after high school. Actually, go back to freshman year at the private school. Things happen with our family. Now we go to public school. That's you could have made a decision of like, well, I'm just not going to go to school. My dad works in the factory. I'll go work at the factory.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm not going to go to college. Again, you could have decided many, many different paths. Well, I'm going to go to the military. Then I'm going to come back to school. If you would have told me you did not get a degree, I would not have been surprised. Honestly, not in a bad way. I'd have been like, well, yeah, man,
Mhm.
there's a lot of things going on, military, et cetera, et cetera. That's not for everybody. That you
Right.
persisted to get that and then persisted through different jobs, always with a servant leader's heart. You you certainly weren't doing it for a paycheck. You certainly deserved bigger paychecks than you got. But man, I think you hit the nail on the head when you're like, man, to see those kids smile, bro,
Mhm.
that's good. I'm good. I'm
Yep.
I'm on the right path. It may just not there may not be a pot of gold at the end of it, but it's the right path to be on. And so persistence, Nick, that's
Yep.
what a great character trait, my friend.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Nick. Again, I appreciate you so much for being here. Guys and gals, thank you for being here. Again, love bringing you variety. I said this early in the podcast life. I was like, man, there's probably 10, maybe 50 different ways to become a coach. And we're learning here,
Yeah.
we're episode 360, 370. I don't know where we're at. We're learning that
Mhm.
there is 400, 500, 600 different ways. We're still learning different ways. I'm not sure we've had too many. I can't think of any off the top of my head of coaches who went straight into the military after high school. I've found that fascinating. I
Yeah.
find things that I can't do fascinating. So grateful for Nick, grateful for Nick's service. And thank you to all of our military men and women out there, past and present, for what you do for us guys and gals. I can't do it. So thank you again so much for being here this week. Join us next week. We'll do it all over again. See you guys.